Yes, so let's do one thing. We'll just continue discussion, I guess, and then we'll try to include points which this particular video was trying to say. Yes, so I guess the one of the crucial thing it highlighted was that there are at least three factors which basically contribute in happiness. So first is which is a biological factor, how we are, like what we feel, and then what kind of emotional intelligence and the other kind of intelligences we have. So all those things basically contribute in deciding our happiness. And then the second thing might be is uh, about the life choices we make, what we decide, what we decide to work on, and then a number of other things. And then obviously few behavioral choices. So in the sense, like if we decide to express gratitude for something, and all those kind of behavioral things. So ultimately, these three things together make the happiness. It decides whether we are happy or not. So it has its influence on our happiness. But I just don't want to get into technicalities today. I just want to discuss it in a very general term. So before going ahead, can we just quickly share one experience or one moment when you felt happy, or rather happiest? So the one point which you thought in your entire life, that was a moment you when you felt that this is like the best moment in my life, or this is something the best thing which has happened to me, and then I'm really happy for that. So any one thing which you can share, obviously a very personal one, but it will help us shape the discussion further.
So for me, it was uh, audible.
Yeah.
For me, it was the 10th board's result. A very because throughout my life I had I had been an average student, average and a bit above average at times. So and my mom throughout my life, she had been a topper. I mean, never, even second rank. It would be always on the top rank. So for me, um, the 10th result was more of rather than scoring like above 90, it was more of the kind of excitement that she felt. And that was something that made me happy because she had always been expecting for me to score or maybe top the class or whatever. So and I was not that kind of a person. I still believe being average and a bit above average, or maybe below average at times. So 10th was one standard, like one board exam that was I had crossed the other rankers of the class as well, and that was something that made my mom very proud. So
Great.
seeing that happiness on her face, like finally, okay, I did it, and that was the thing, that finally she is
Yes.
satisfied and finally she's happy about it.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
that was something that made me happy. Maybe I was not like okay, itne sare I had worked hard and I knew okay, some good marks are going to come, but
Yes.
the thing that mom felt,
Mhm.
that was the happiest part.
Yes, yes. So let's try to analyze this particular situation, this particular event. So one thing I can see that there was a comparison. So you were comparing
Right,
yourself with your mother. So that is one thing I can easily
right.
see. Second thing I can
Absolutely.
understand is it's just not because you got those particular marks and then you are happy. It is again you observed same happiness in your mom, and that made you more happy,
Yes.
that made you happier, I guess,
So maybe
because
my
she was
reason
happy.
of being happy is not, yeah, my reason being of being happy is not about good marks. But
Yes.
uh, she was feeling happy about the good marks, and I was feeling happy looking her happy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Good, good, good. Yes, yes. So others makes us happy. What others feel, that also makes her happy. Makes us happy.
absolutely, yes.
Yes.
And rather, it's a long pending thing, as it was a long pending thing, which I felt
Hmm.
that she was constantly expecting from me, which I,
Yes. Yes.
over the years, maybe from the time when I started realizing, oh, she's expecting this from me, maybe third
Hmm.
grade, fourth grade,
Hmm.
was a 7, 8 year
Hmm.
long expectation that, and I would try every year, but it wouldn't happen. So when it finally
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
happened, that was when I felt okay. Finally, I did this, and then I could see her happy. So, me being able to make her happy was something that I achieved, and
Yes.
that was the thing that made me happy. Marks was,
Right.
of course, on
Right.
the
Right.
side track. It
Yes.
was there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then basically, it certainly mean that like what we aspire for, and if we achieve that, then we feel happy. So you're willing to make
Absolutely,
your mom happy, and then through this you could make her happy, and then because of that you are happy. If let's say instead of like these marks, if there is something which she would had felt happy about, then I guess you might have mentioned that particular incident,
again, I
not.
would. Yes,
Yeah. Hmm.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah,
Yes. So ultimately, your aspiration was making her happy. Her You found that like her happiness would be in your marks, and then when you achieved that, that ultimately made you happy.
absolutely.
Good, good. Yeah. So before going ahead, like I would like to listen something from Apurva as well.
Hello, hello, Uni, hello,
Hi,
Sachin
Apurva.
sir.
Yeah. So what makes you happy? What made you happy? One
Yeah,
incident.
uh, actually, I'm working in a MV Plus project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I took some teachers training of
Mm-hmm.
two to three batches,
Right.
and at the last day, the teacher shared some thoughts for me.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's all good thoughts, so that things make me happy for, and actually, I take that thing as my further opportunities.
Yes. Yes.
So that
Yes.
moment is happy moment for me.
Right. 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 So one thing, like when somebody uh appreciate our work, when somebody respect, recognize our work, then we feel happy. So ultimately we feel that like it's kind of a certificate of uh, like a certificate of doing something good, certificate of like for putting our efforts into it. And then obviously if somebody recognizing that, then we feel happy about it, which is good. Yes. Perfect. So just one thing I would like to highlight, and that is about the incidents which Avni mentioned, that was coming from her personal life, whereas Apurva's incidents was coming from the professional life. So then happiness can live in your personal and professional life as well. Okay. So with this, let me just quickly share a few slides, and then we'll take this discussion ahead. Yes. Is it visible? Yes. So the first thing, uh, it's about like a very old effort. I would say uh, a very old account of what happiness, what well-being is, and it is called a utilitarian account. where like we just try to understand what makes people happy. And there was like philosophers, thinkers like Bentham. He used to think that like, or he proposed that where happiness come through the actions which make us happy. Those carry more moral importance. Those are like important from the individual perspective. Those one would like to continue doing. So ultimately, happiness is a measurement according to him to decide like which actions are good, which actions are bad, which actions should not be taken. So according to him, happiness is one thing which decides everything. Well, this particular account had like a lot of challenges. In the sense, like the first one is that just being happy uh, might not always lead to a good action. So good in the sense that like it might not be good for others. People may do something which adversely affect on their freedom, which may adversely affect on their uh, on their happiness might. So ultimately, what Bentham is saying has some flaw. People like we are seeing that people do a number of things um, just because they feel happy about it. They go and then kill animal in the jungles. They don't even mind killing people. Okay, and rapes and all those things are like very common. Those, at least in India, unfortunately, we say that it's common. Uh, but like those things, like people think that such actions will make them happy, and then people go ahead and take those actions. Now, if that is the only criteria, if we decide to measure individuals' happiness as as the only morally important thing, then I guess like we are doing some mistake. Only happiness cannot measure everything. It may lead to certain problem. We need to rethink on that particular position. That is what the other thinkers thought, and then they came with a lot of other alternatives, other thoughts about it. What? Yes. So let me just quickly share what utilitarian point of view was. So and then specifically this particular slide, it is talking about one aspect of utilitarianism, that is called act utilitarianism. So what it basically says is that uh, whatever we are doing, that is right if it is giving us happiness. Okay, as I've already mentioned, it's Bentham's position. It's his morality related account, which is basically trying to say that like happiness and unhappiness are the only measurement of deciding which actions are good and which actions should be taken. And then there was one more philosopher or thinker who thought like it's not good, and his account was his name is Mill. So Mill had like a different perspective to look towards it. And then what he was saying, yes, so this is the account which Mill has presented, and according to him, that like just individuals will or individuals happiness is not sufficient. We also need to have certain rules. Those rules could be at a very higher level, or could be some universally applicable rules, but we need to have certain rules, and then only we can assure that when one individual is doing something for their own happiness, it is not impacting others' happiness. And then he basically mentioned one additional criteria, that is having certain rules. So one criteria is to be happy. So one individual should take actions which make them happy, but at the same time they should follow rules. Okay. Now it is again, sometimes people think that like just following rules or rules itself may lead to like it may affect happiness, in the sense, if I'm following certain rules and because of that I'm not happy, because of that I'm just taking extra efforts, then it may affect on my happiness directly. In the sense, people going on the road and then they see that there is a signal out there, uh, but because of certain reasons they want to move a little faster, they want to just break the signals and go ahead. Okay, now if rule is one criteria we decide, then that particular rule, if somebody want to break and then go ahead, then it may make them happy. But if somebody avoid them, if there is a traffic police which avoid them, which stops them from breaking the signal, then they will have to stop over there, and then it adversely affecting on their happiness. It might be, they might be having genuine reasons as well. Let's say there's somebody there hospitalized or somebody waiting on the road and they need to reach a little faster. Then if somebody forcefully stop them on the signal, it's basically leading to their unhappiness. And then utilitarianism says that if certain actions lead to unhappiness, then those actions are not good. So ultimately we are trapped because rules making us unhappy, and then when we are unhappy, the actions we are taking, those are not good, those are not morally good, right? So following rules lead to a situation where we are doing immoral behaviors, we are taking immoral actions. Okay, so this particular perspective says that rules, even though the rules exist, even though we want to follow rules, there is no chance that it will assure the happiness of individuals. Okay, before going ahead, do you have any questions? Let me just take a pause. Do you agree with these two perspectives?
Yes, Sachin. I think for following rules, and
Only you are not
at
audible.
times it is
Really
also-
sorry.
now.
Yeah, it's better, but
Am I
little low,
audible?
I guess.
Okay, now.
Yes, now it's better. Please.
Okay, so I think with respect to rules, it also happens that being able to conform gives a lot of acceptance from the rule making body or the community, and that acceptance in itself also increases our ability to be happy.
Yes. Yes.
This was something that I could relate with.
Right, right. And then acceptance of rule, that is one thing. Secondly is like one need to understand where those rules are coming from. What is the root? If we know that this particular rule come due to these reasons, then people are happy. They accept it easily. So just to give one example, when we decided to go ahead for lockdown, I guess there were very few who thought like it's not a good decision. Everybody like agreed to that, accepted to it, okay, and then they decided to be at home as well. In country like India, where like we have such a huge population, and then declaring lockdown and then expecting entire country to be at home, I guess that was a big decision. That was a big rule in that sense. But everybody was okay with it because they were already knowing what is happening in rest of the world, how people are suffering because of that, what is happening in Europe, what has happened in China. Everybody was aware of it. And then when we know where that rule is coming from, then people are happy to accept that and they act accordingly. And then obviously it may continue their happiness. We don't know whether it will increase or not, but at least like it won't lead to unhappiness. Right. So
Yes, Sachin.
I guess like,
yeah.
Yes. So perfect. So with this particular perspective, I guess these two positions are there: the act utilitarianism and rule related aspects, where like we can just mention the laws or rules, and then we can decide like what is morally good or not. So ultimately we added one third perspective to it, that like rules should be accepted to all. It should be done with certain reasoning, and people should be aware of those reasoning, and then they'll be happy with it. And that basically lead to the discussion which Amartya Sen has done, which says that all this, like the policy making, should be a joint activity. It should be done in consultation. It should be done with the people, and then all the reasoning should be available in public. They should be there to express what they mean, what they feel. Are they okay with it? Okay. And then one thing he mentioned was about the process through which we will reach to certain decision. That is one thing. And second thing, that there should be a platform to express their views. So these two things will assure the third point which we are mentioning, that rules should be accepted to everybody. Okay. So with this, let's take a discussion ahead. Just one thing which I missed, and I thought like it's really important, because this is one of the important perspective. So we missed this particular point. So there are three principles on which this entire philosophical thought is based, and that is one thing, that pleasure or happiness is the only thing that truly has intrinsic value. So one should feel happy, and that is only thing which one should value. This is the only thing which gives intrinsic value. Okay. Second, actions are right if they promote happiness, and those are wrong if they produce unhappiness. And third, everyone's happiness counts equally. The last point is really important. Everyone's happiness does count. It is important. For our own happiness, you cannot undermine others' happiness. Right? Now, with this, the last point, I guess we just need to give thought to how we can assure the last point, because the first two are like something which every individual will work on, knowingly, unknowingly, because we'll do something which will make us happy. Okay. Even though on the front, on the surface, we feel that people are not happy, but whatever they are doing, they do it ultimately for the happiness. In the sense, yesterday I was just watching one Marathi serial with my mother, and then the storyline of that particular serial is that there's one girl. She marry one person just because her father want her to get married to that individual. Okay. Now in this particular case, I guess like marriage might not be giving her happiness, but she's feeling happy because her father was wanted her to do that. Right. Now in this particular case, if you see that happiness might not be a very direct thing, so it is not directly related to me. Happiness might be coming through somebody else's happiness as well, and then it is only possible when you value that thing. It is not just something which is like enforced on you, but you value somebody else's happiness, then obviously that particular happiness will count as a happiness for you. And then I guess it's goes with what example which Avni gave. So on the personal front, I consider that is important. Right? Any question on this thing? Any thoughts? Any doubts? Anything you don't agree with?
No, Sachin, this is good.
Yes. Perfect. Perfect. Let's go ahead and then come back to the same discussion which we were having earlier. Yes. So we discussed this particular position, and now Let's come to the other aspects. Okay, there are like few other aspects which try to understand well-being and happiness. So one perspective is like Freudian perspective, which says that like uh, it's we are seen as captive in the hands of forces unknown to us. In the sense, like we do have a lot of influences on us, which are like completely unknown to us. We are not aware of those forces, but those are still there. So in the sense, like our choices are affected by the market forces. Our choices are affected by the uh, what is shown on in the advertisements. Okay, so that also lead to happiness. In the sense, if somebody says that like this particular car is, in the sense, Mercedes, for example, it's something people consider as a class. Okay, I'm not sure. Like I haven't boarded the Mercedes, so I don't know what kind of class it carries. But if somebody get chance to purchase that particular car, then they will it will make them happy, because that perception is already being created in the market. Okay, so ultimately your happiness is not something which is coming from within. There are market forces, there are forces from outside which is deciding what makes you happy. Okay, so one perspective. The other is like behavioral related approach. In the sense, behaviorism says that if there are certain actions which are like getting rewarded, then you feel better about it. Okay, and if there are certain actions which are getting punished, then you feel bad about it. Okay, so there's one picture which you can see that like this is I guess Skinner's experiment on behaviorism, where like if uh, rat eats something and then get the electric shock, then basically it start understanding that like eating something is not good. Okay, so similarly you can condition your mind get conditioned. Okay, so we are not getting into the details about classical conditioning and then operant conditioning, but in general, whatever rewards you get, based on that, your mind get conditioned to understand what is good and what is bad. And this principle we use in schools or with children all the time. So if they do something good, we like we appreciate them. We tell them like you're doing something good. We sometimes just give them stars on their hands. We give them stars on the paper. We clap for them. Okay, all those things come from behaviorism. So ultimately, if they are doing something good, you appreciate that, and basically then they tend to continue the same behavior. Whereas if they are doing something wrong, then you basically punish them. So you send children out of the classroom, you make them stand on benches, or n number of things you do. Okay, so basically, uh, if this way our mind get conditioned, then the actions which earlier got rewarded, okay, so that will lead to happiness, and then you would like to continue doing that. You would like to excel in those particular actions. Okay, you like to go to the next level, and then if you reach next level, you feel happy about it, right? So that is one perspective which tells like how happiness operates. Then the third perspective is about humanistic approach. In the sense, it explores the meaning of our existence, the role of will, the uniqueness of each individual, and then ultimately it's talking about the humanistic values. It recognizes that like the people exist around us, and then we also need to do something for them. So all the um, altruistic behaviors and all those things might be coming under this particular approach, and then that gives us happiness. Okay, uh, just one word of caution over here, that it does not necessarily mean that it is having a intrinsic value. In the sense, doing something good for others gives us happiness. It is not something which is like coming from within. It is also getting conditioned in the society. Okay, for example, uh, when you're like, if you're going on the road, or like if for example you go to temple, you see like a lot of people sitting over there. And from your childhood, if you see that your parent are giving some money to them, then if you become capable of giving money to those individuals, then you feel happy about it, because you have seen that particular behavior since your childhood, and now you become capable of doing it by yourself. So uh, it is not necessary that giving something makes you happy. It is because you are in position to reproduce what you have seen since your childhood, right? So uh, just a small word of caution over here, that altruism should not be treated as like it will always lead to happiness. Sometimes it is socially constructed as well. Okay, it is not coming from within, it is something enforced or indoctrinated by the people around you. It is something might be there in your culture, and then because of that you are doing it. Okay, it is not your own choice. Indirectly it is forced on you. Okay, so let me just take a quick pause. And any thoughts about these three views?
Hello.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes,
There's
now
been
now
some
yeah.
internet issues on my side. Okay. I think I mostly agree to like the Freudian perspective and the behavioral, not so much to the humanist approach. I mean, it's mostly in terms of the role of free will, because I don't really know if we do have free will. I think it's very limited. My own personal
Mm,
opinions on that, but I think uh, even when it comes to like the utilitarian approach, I one of the problem is again, if you go with decisions which are of the majority, uh, which is one of the problems that I have with it. Like you're trying to maximize happiness, right? That's kind of the principal basis of the utilitarian approach.
mm, 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 mm.
So I think
Yeah.
when it comes to making ethical decisions and when it comes to issues of social justice, somewhere
Mm-hmm.
there sometimes do tend to be a conflict between
Yes.
wi- with a utilitarian approach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. Yeah. So I guess like and because the same reason, I guess Amartya Sen was critical of yeah, utilitarian approach, and then this his theory of ethics basically discard the utilitarianism completely, and then he basically proposed his own thought. He just built further on that. Yes. So let's start with the basic discussion. I guess like we won't be able to finish it today. We will need one more session to finish a discussion about well-being and happiness, because I specifically want to discuss something about GNH as well. So let's see how much we can cover today, but we'll continue the same discussion in the next session as well. So well-being has these various aspects. Uh, Most of them also become part of the happiness index as well. These are like a few of the categories which I could relate over there. So the first is life satisfaction. So how closely reality matches to your objective, so to your aspiration. That basically decide how much happy you are. So that is one thing. Second is emotional well-being, expressing positive emotional states. So obviously it is also dependent on your psychological state, what kind of inclinations or what kind of dispositions you have. It really depends on that as well. uh, Third is positive functioning, having a sense of purpose in life, very essential, very important. I guess it drives everything. If you do have a purpose in your life, then based on that you can also based on that the other factors will also get influence, in the sense your life satisfaction, for example. So that will also be affected by what kind of purpose you have in your life. Then fourth one is social well-being. So feeling connected to others. So you might have seen that particular video. In that, ultimately it emphasizes on this particular point. So during our mid age, if we establish good connect with people, then that is something which will make us happy in the end of the life. So if he reaches 80 or like 60s and above that, then I guess like our social connects, that will make us more happier. And then the last one is about like it's about like whether we are having a lively life or not, whether we are having something exciting to do every day or not. That will also decide our happiness. So ultimately, we need something exciting to do every day, something different to do every day. It does not mean that like we are changing entire domain, or we are doing drastically something different. But like whatever we are doing in the same thing, if we do something differently, then I guess that may also lead to our happiness. In the sense like I conduct like at least 4 or 5 sessions a day, and then every session is different. During every session, if I get some new insights during the preparation, or if while having discussion with all the participants, if I get something new to learn, then I feel happy about it. So ultimately, even though the things are same, but if you experience something new in the same thing, then that may also lead to happiness. Anything on this particular thing? I'm sure you agree with all
Yes,
this,
yes.
but like
I'm
giving
good.
certain examples. Yeah. Shall we move ahead?
So I
Yes.
think with
So,
respect
Ms.
to
Lee, please. Yeah, please.
yeah, with respect to like sometimes when we see well-being with all these five uh, uh, aspects, um, we get to know that even if one of them is not functioning well,
Mhm.
there is a bit of sulking feeling that a person may go through.
Mhm.
Any
Yes.
one of it,
Yes.
even if the four of them are floating well, but if one of them is
Mhm.
going low, uh, there is a bit of sulking that the person is going to go.
Mhm.
And there may be a
Mhm.
possibility where these are five things that we are able to list down over here. There may be some intangible parameters, or maybe some uh, things we may not be able to identify, but they
Yes.
may be affecting. So,
Yes.
and they may have links
Exactly.
with these five criteria.
Right. Yes. Yes. And just to take the same point ahead, so whatever comprehensive list you prepare, that will always be incomplete, because you never know what makes people happy. So yesterday it was something else,
Yeah,
tomorrow it will be something else.
it evolves. It evolves continuously, and also that how well are we able to going? Will we be able to identify what really matters and what we really value? And again, it is ever evolving.
Yes. And then what we value is also changing. It is changing based on the experiences we have. It is changing based on the exposure we get. It does change based on what is enforced us on through social media or other forms of media. So it is basically like what we value, that itself is getting affected, and then based on that, the things coming in front of us, we judge them, and then that will lead to happen. So it will be like ever evolving, ever changing thing. So ultimately, you will never be able to reach to a comprehensive list of things which will make individual happy. And that is what Amartya Sen's position is. He's saying that like we will not be in position to create a good list of things which make people happy. And then if you cannot do that, then what is the solution then in that case? So he proposes that like for every purpose, for every different context, you need to go and then prepare a list separately. You may start with something, but you will have to prepare that list separately. You'll have to figure that thing out after consultation with people. Let them decide what make them happy, and then you work on that. So that is the position which Amartya Sen is coming with. Right? So good. So now we will just go through two examples, two problems statements, and we'll try to analyze that, and we'll stop over there for today. So this is one thing. So just take a minute or two to read this, and then we will discuss. Yes. So as you can see that Mary and Jane, they are colleagues, and then Mary's boss quits. But as everybody perceive that Jane is born talented, and she can take up that particular position. Now the question over here is like, is it good to promote Jane because she has just joined the office? Is it a just behavior? Is it good?
I think this usually happens in case of making principals in schools. So when
Mhm.
new teacher comes, or maybe a young principal is appointed, the old teachers who have been serving the school for so long, they have been waiting for the position, and then it is
Hmm.
suddenly out of hand. Yeah.
Right.
Um, so I
So
think
obviously,
with respect
yeah, please.
to, yeah, experience wise, of course, Mary has been there for a longer duration in the organization, and the commitment levels are definitely high. But because the like, I think, yeah, but then yeah, again it's dicey.
Yes, surely it is complicated. It's not that straightforward. In the sense, like, how will one decide whether it is right or wrong? What is morally, ethically right? How can we decide? Okay, what criteria we should take into consideration then?
In some situations, it is the previous long-term employee who may be better fit for job, and
Mhm.
in some situations, the new employee is better fit for the job, and it is again pertaining to that particular situation. So if
Yes.
Jane in this case is better at performing and driving the organization, or taking up the responsibility of the designation or the job.
Mhm. Mhm.
That person is definitely more like appropriate for the job. At times, it is also important to see how much talent or the kind of willingness Mary was wanting to
Mhm.
put in the job, and
Mhm.
both the employees then need to be balanced out. That who is a better uh, option, like
Yes.
who is the better
Yes.
person to be appointed. So I
Right.
think it
Right.
depends on the situation, and it's highly subjective, and it has many aspects to go through. It is not just with respect to experience or the ability to perform, or
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
the length of the or the duration of the work that the
Yes.
person has served. So
Yes.
it's not just
So
these three; it
basically,
has many more layers.
yes. Right. So, according to me, again, like, I might be wrong as well. Just I'm sharing my view on this particular example. So, for me, I sometimes consider like organization always should have some value system. Uh, they should describe it. They should list it. What things value for them, and then they should try to communicate it to the audience, in the sense their employees and then all the stakeholders they are working with, and then it will be easier to resolve this particular problem then. Because like if your value system says that you want to respect the existing employees, and you want to give them preference or anything else, or the talent, or the skill sets as well, then I guess things are sorted there. Then you will like, obviously Mary will get the first chance. Whereas other organizations may talk about excellence, about efficiency, and all those things. Okay, if that particular organization values efficiency over the seniority and the other things, then obviously it's very simple then. Now Jane has the clear cut chances of getting selected for that particular position. So ultimately, organization need to decide what is value according to them. what do what are the things they do value. And then the other more important thing, just organization listing their values does not make a difference. Okay, those values need to be communicated to people, and then people should be in position to digest that. They should be aware of it. Okay, if they are not in sync with the value system, then basically it will lead to a lot of problems. If for this in this particular example, if Jane get opportunity to uh, take up that senior position, then obviously if this value system is not reached to her, if she has not yet absorbed it completely, then Mary will go and quit the job directly, because she is not with that particular value system. She is not accepting those values. She thinks like it's a unjust behavior. So defining value system, and then making sure that people are aware of it, people have accepted it. Okay, and then if people have accepted that, then they will come up with a solution by themselves. So in this particular case, Mary may come forward and would say that Jane is a better option for this particular position. She should be promoted for that particular position. So that's possible if she agrees to the value system. And then sometimes people think that like it's a very ideal thing. It does not happen in profession, but in my experience, I have done it once. In the sense, like when I was working with the art circle in one of the college, at that time I realized that like a friend of mine, he was like a better capable of leading certain things. So even though I was heading that particular group of 100 or 200 people over there, but I decided like for that particular event, that individual will be the lead. He will lead instead of me. I won't be there. So this kind of situation, this kind of decisions people do take if they are agreeing with the value system. They are in sync with the value system. So ultimately, everything is driven by what individuals value. Okay, and that is exactly what is the definition of free will as well. People should be aware, people should be agreeing. Okay, they should be doing something willingly, and then if they do that willingly, then things are sorted. It will increase to that individual's happiness, and then ultimately it will benefit to the larger organizational output as well. It will increase that outcome as well. Hope it was clear.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yes,
And even I was thinking about how values sort of determine the approach you take to the kind of decisions you make. And I think we see
Yes.
this very often when it comes to the private sector and the government sector as well. In government sector, a lot of promotions are done based on tenure and how long
Yes.
you've been there compared to the private sector where it's more based on how you perform. It doesn't matter how long you've been there or not. So yeah, I think
Yes.
every institution has a set of values,
Yes.
and that needs to be communicated to the people, and decisions will be made based on that. I think that also brings about an acceptance in the decision which is being made amongst the people.
Very true. Yes. Yes. Yeah, Avni, you were saying something.
Yeah, I was exactly going to say what Sadaf mentioned, and in continuation to that, in case of the tenure thing, people do have a tendency to take undue advantage of being passive and being there for long and doing nothing, and then because the promotion is based on the tenure, they tend to go ahead with it.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened in government system.
Exactly. So even if the value system is being put forward, they are driven by some other means, and they are not in sync with the productivity or the efficiency of the organization.
Right, right, exactly. So with this, let's take one more example. So just take a couple of minutes to read this, and then we'll discuss.
Have you presented Sachin?
Yeah, is it not visible? Really sorry.
No.
Let me do it again. Really sorry. Yeah, really sorry.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Yes. Are we done? So basically, there are two friends, Roberts and John. Roberts don't have any kids, whereas John have two. And earlier, Robert and John, they used to do skiing a lot. But now, Robert can surely go for skiing, but John cannot go or cannot plan for any vacation with his two children because they are too young. Now the question here is like, is Robert happier than John? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think this is an objective yes or no. I think it again differs from person to person. Like maybe for John, he's happy listening to his child's first words or see the child
Mm.
take his first steps more than like Robert going on a ski trip. So
Yes.
it's very subjective.
Yes. Yes. Very true. It is very much possible
It
that like
also depends on. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
It is also possible that Robert is valuing skiing more, so he would be happy there. John is valuing children more, and he is happy here. So it's not something that can be compared. What
Yes.
Robert and John equally value. If considered that John and Robert used to ski together earlier, and now John is not able to, there may be a chance where John may feel that he may miss the skiing, but I think he may be able to look forward to when his kids grow up and he can take both the kids to the skiing as well. So I think it would be from various perspectives with respect to finance or be it respect to time or availability of resources, and it has again lots of aspects to get into and a lot of layers to understand. That's how and what defines happiness for each Robert and John.
Right. Right. Yes. Perfectly. Yes. I guess like there are a number of reasons or a number of factors, variables which will decide whether Robert is happy or John we're happy. John is happy. But ultimately, one thing is important. Specifically, looking at this particular exercise, example, I consider like the state of mind they are in. That will depend. That will decide whether they are happy or not. If, as you rightly mentioned, these two things are different. The so Robert's happiness cannot be compared with John's happiness. Both might be equally happy. John might be happy with being with his children. He might be happy because he do value that particular thing. Whereas uh, Robert might be happy continuing his skiing. He's not really looking for kids. So it ultimately depends on like what state of mind that particular individual is in, and his happiness will be calculated based on that. So obviously then you cannot compare somebody's happiness with others' happiness. So my happiness cannot be compared with Mukesh Ambani's child's happiness. He might be happy and then I'm equally happy, because like I value what I'm doing and he does value what he is doing. Okay, so obviously I'm just doing this comparison because I'm assuming one criteria here, that is the amount of money he hold and the amount of money I hold. Okay, obviously if we remove that particular thing, then the comparisons would be about like what we both value, and that happiness will come from there. So ultimately comparison of any sort is not possible. You cannot compare yourself or any individual with the other individual. That comparison is not possible when you are doing it. You are specifically measuring happiness. So that is one important point which this particular slide is highlighting. Yes. So with this, I guess we should stop for today because like we have already crossed our time. But next time there are like a few more things which we haven't discussed. There's one particular theory, the psychological aspects, which also need to be taken into consideration. And one of the theory is Maslow's hierarchy. So that is one thing we need to discuss. And there are other few theories which we need to understand. And then we will end next session with a discussion about GNH. So at least like this thing we should be aware about well-being and happiness. Okay, so with this we'll stop. I hope it was like you all were with me, and then it was like not too much of theoretical discussion. You got chance to contribute as well. It was well in that sense.
Yes, Sachin. Yeah, it was pretty interactive.
Yes, good. So I could contribute to your happiness then.
Yes.
and we hope we were able to contribute to yours.
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully we didn't reduce it for
No,
you.
surely not. Yes. So when like I get chance to interact, and then people are also like, when you interact, then I get the feedback that like you are with me, you are like following what I'm trying to communicate, and then that makes me happy. As simple as that. Yes. So with this, we'll stop for today, and then we'll catch up again soon. Bye.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Sundar. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Apurva.